Hello and welcome again to One Starfish, where our mission is to change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, all the stuff. Excited for our guest today, Dylan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So Dylan has a credit education and repair company he started in 2017, where his main mission is to help people understand the credit game, which obviously I'm in the financial services industry. I get it. A lot of people don't understand it. So it's really cool that you're doing that. Before that, he was an entrepreneur for 3 years. Before that, family guy, kids, all the stuff, busy guy. Tell us a little bit about what got you into the credit repair. Like why in 2017 did you decide to open that? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so pretty much, if I'm being super honest, I have a very competitive edge to me. So at the time when I had my own issues with credit, because that's how it started pretty much, I was my own first customer. So what was happening is I was transitioning from the car sales job into wireless, into retail and Verizon. So I was trying to get ahead of my bills and keep up with credit cards, and I wind up hiring a company. So I didn't realize the difference of like debt consolidation and credit repair. I didn't really know what was going on. So I went to Google. I started, researching people, and I found a company that seemed pretty reputable. Long story short, they took a lot of my money. They barely got a hold of me, and the only way I could get a hold of them was if I were to remove the credit card off the auto withdrawal. So what they did is they had a an installment account or an escrow account, and in that escrow account, what would happen is I would just get auto withdrawals, and they would take a piece of that money and try to pay back some of the creditors.
Okay.
Well, I would watch my credit score, and it kept going down and down and down and down, and I'm like, wait, I came to you for this to go up, not for it to go down.
Right.
So I didn't have the greatest experience.
No.
I wound up canceling with them. I had a little over $2,000 invested that I could not get back. And they were just super unhelpful. And when I wanted to cancel, it was like I was like banned, or I was like the bad kid or whatever. They wanted nothing to do with me. It was nowhere near as professional as what it should have been. So now I'm still stuck, and I'm actually stuck in a worse place than I was in the beginning.
Jeez.
So I'm like, well, what do I do now? Do I go to Google and do I try it again? But I was scared because it was a lot of money that I spent. So that's where like that competitive like sales edge came. And I was like, you know what? If I dissect what they did, I could do better than they did. I'm going to try this myself. So I did research for months. I took classes and courses and got certified and stuff. And then I attacked my own credit. Once I started to see progress, I was making posts publicly because I don't mind sharing my information. So not like my social or anything, but like
Right, of course. Yeah.
So as I'm, seeing progress, I'm sharing it. And people are starting to message me and they're saying, hey, I have this going on with my credit and I saw you're doing yours. Can you help me? Or what's going on here? What's happening here? What does this mean? I received this in the mail. So as I'm starting to get like these messages and phone calls, because people are seeing that I'm actually making progress for myself, they had questions. How do I do this? I seen this in my credit report. Is this possible? What's possible? I'm getting all these questions. Well, what really got me to sink my teeth into this, like I think what really hit home is when I had my first success story. And I'm not talking about my credit. It was somebody that I actually helped. So I was giving him guidance. We're walking through things, and he was in a situation and, got divorced and needed a home, couldn't even get approved for an apartment. And because credit is that important, you can have the full term of your rent payments ready to go to do a one-time pay, and an apartment will not accept you.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, and you find out the hard way. So when this guy sent me a picture that he was able to actually get into a home and was so excited and was very grateful that it's like, hey, when I tell you how I can't even, I'm not a feelings person, but the feeling that I got from it, it was almost like this is what you're supposed to be doing. Because helping people buy cars increases their monthly expense.
Exactly.
Having people come in to the Verizon store seeing them, especially with kids and their daughter playing with the newest iPhone at the time, and
Right.
then convincing them why they need it and to match it with this iPad and to increase the bill, it wasn't really helping people.
No.
And I can tell you the most fulfillment I ever got out of the wireless side was when a business would come to me. And like now thinking about it, it all makes sense. When a business came to me and they needed a certain solution, and that's when certain phones and things that we had and bits and pieces of the plan and how to protect them and protect their fleet and that stuff felt good.
Right.
And then that's when it started to come to me that I really have this like I don't know if you want to call it like I would say passion. I just feel like it's an overused word, but there's just something in me that truly wants to see the other side of when I give advice and if it works, or if I have a solution to a problem. I like to solve problems. So in the wireless, it was helping businesses and then them coming back and saying how I solved the problem. Because they stay in contact with you and if they need more stuff. When it came to credit, when I saw the like compound effect, when I saw, okay, now you're here, this is what it allowed you to do with it. And I'm literally changing lives. And then when people come back and they're saying, I can't believe this is my house, or this is the first brand new car I've ever owned. And it just started to happen again and again and again. And I got obsessed with it. And here we are 6 years later. And those stories still come in every day. And now they come in, a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Those stories come in and I'm still not numb to it. I still get excited like the first time because of my situation. I was able to turn it around and now I get to help other people do it.
That's awesome. I love it. So what are some things that you see out there very commonly? So anyone that's listening, what are some things that you see very commonly that would help people just get, I guess, better credit, better credit scores? Like, what do you see as the biggest problem or missing out there, I guess?
So there's two things. Number one, why it's not the most accurate place to go. And also the second thing is understanding the mechanics of what influences a credit score. Because we have things in our head that we think, if I do this, my score should go up based on my way of thinking. Right. But that's going to be completely different than the algorithm that you're trying to pay a car off. And as you pay that car off, you think, oh, my score is going to go up. And it actually goes down. The reason that happens is because when you have an installment account you've been paying for a long time, the third influence to your score going up or down is the average age of your open accounts. The reason this exists is because the longer you've been maintaining credit, the more data is calculated between payment history and balances to show your level of risk. Right? So if you pay off an account, that no longer contributes to your average age of open accounts, which is a 15% influence of the score going up or down. So the lower the age, the lower the score. The longer you've been maintaining multiple accounts in your credit report, the less of a risk you are. Now, let me take one step back to make this make a little bit more sense. Your credit score is not a debt score. I hear some people say it, oh, it's your debt score. It's putting yourself in debt. It's how much debt you can get. That has a very negative connotation to it. Your credit score is your risk score. So it's how risky of a borrower you are to a lender. Here's an example. That 3-digit number represents the probability of you defaulting on the loan you're applying for in a 24-month period. So they say, if we give you this loan today, what's the probability of you defaulting on this loan and start missing payments and you're out of it within a 24-month period? That's what that 3-digit number represents.
Right.
So also, we have 28 different FICO scores, every single one of us. And it's because depending on what type of credit product you're applying for, there are different risk factors in each category. So when you're trying to buy a home, that's an installment loan. And in that installment loan, they want to look at your history and see, well, how do you treat other installment loans? Do you have experience in this field? And so those parameters are going to be different compared to if you're applying for a credit card. Now, when that credit card lender pulls your credit, they want to look about your experience and stability and everything with other credit cards. Right? So we have different scores depending on what we're applying for. So it's really important to have multiple accounts open. You want to have at least minimum 5. And I wanted to bring these things up because I feel like anybody you ever talk to about credit, they're going to tell you the most basic thing that everybody understands. Oh, just make your payments on time and your credit will be good. Sometimes that's not enough because they're not understanding the actual mechanics of what influences a credit score. So yes, make your payments on time, but make sure that you have at least 5 open accounts. Look at those.
5 open accounts would mean like ones like credit cards or like just your checking account, or what exactly is an account?
So 5 accounts that are reportable to the credit report. So it's going to be a mixture of revolving accounts, which are, yes, like credit cards, store cards, and then you want at least 1 or 2 installment loans, right? So the reason that you don't want to have just like 5 credit cards or 5 installment loans, which an installment loan is going to be like a personal loan, a car, or a home. So the ideal situation, if you want to minimize how many accounts you have and you want to stick to just 5, I would say 3 credit cards, a auto loan, and a personal loan until you're ready to buy a home. So that is the perfect mixture because, believe it or not, credit diversity, the mixture of accounts, has an influence in your credit score. It controls 10% of the score. Now, to take it one step deeper, when I'm throwing these percents and numbers out, let me switch that over to points, right? Because I feel like sometimes when I say the points, it has a little bit more of an impact. So the lowest your credit score can be is a 300. The highest it can be is an 850. So there's 550 points that your scores can fluctuate. Now, you get graded on this test. I call it a test. You get graded on this test every 30 days. And so you'll have a refresh score every 30 days. Now, the 5 categories you're getting graded on, number 1 is payment history. That contributes 192.5 out of those 550 points.
Makes sense.
Utilization is 30%, which is 165 of those 550 points. Then you have the average length of the open accounts. That's 15%, which is 82.5 points. Then you have credit diversity, which is the 10%, 55 points. And then the last one is how many times you apply for credit, or like those inquiries, however you say it.
Right.
That's the last remaining 10%, which is the last 55 points. So that is the mechanical structure and what you're getting graded in. Those are your 5 categories that you got to pass. So you got to have at least 5 open accounts because you want to lower your risk as a borrower. And you do that by having multiple accounts open, because think of those accounts, the credit cards and the auto loan and personal loan, those are all references. So when you're looking at a credit report, let's pretend like this is a credit report.
Okay.
When you're looking at this credit report, well, the lender is going to be looking at it. They're going to say, okay, do you have a list of references? I need to see other people you borrow money from to see how you borrow from them before I allow you to borrow from me. So if you're not using your credit at all,
I can see why they don't like me sometimes.
Right.
Because I just keep everything paid off. I don't have debt.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying living debt free is bad either. That's great. That's a goal that every single person should have. Because if you don't have to owe money, that's great. But you can still have a great credit report and a great score for, God forbid, if you ever do need to rely or you do want to leverage other people's money at one day. Maybe you want to invest in homes. Maybe you want to get a business loan, whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
You want to have the healthy file for those types of things. Also, most people don't know that your credit score actually influences how much you pay for insurance. Homeowners insurance, renters insurance, auto insurance. When you go, if you do buy a home and or you ever move anywhere and you turn the utilities on and they ask you for a deposit, that's due to your credit score. So you could be overpaying for the things that you have to pay for every month. It's not like credit is not just for the things you want to buy. It is so essential to everything you do every day. And you could be paying less for the things that you're paying for right now, as long as you have a healthy looking credit profile.
Interesting. Yes, I remember my first credit card. I was 18, I go to apply and I'm like, I'm responsible. I live on my own. I make whatever, blah, blah, blah. They're like, no. I'm like, okay. So then I rephrased it. I says, I live with mom and dad. I make no money. And they're like, boom, you got a credit card. I'm like, that sounds very smart, but I apparently still live at home 20 years later. I've kept the same address. So
hey, that works.
Yeah, it works. But it was so interesting it's interesting how it works. So what do you see as a goal with where you're going? Do you have employees? Are you planning on branching out? Where are you going with this, Dylan?
Yes. So at the moment, we have 39 employees total. We're licensed and bonded to operate in all 50 states. Right now, we have a little over 6,500 clients. So we stay pretty busy. And the goal is by the end of 2023, I'd really like to see 40,000 clients go through our system. So there's a lot of reasoning behind it. Number one, that's how many people that we can help and literally change the trajectory and the quality of how they live. Because I believe somebody with a 450 score and a 750 score live two completely different lifestyles.
They do. Yeah.
So I feel an obligation to introduce people into the world that they think they're not either deserving of, or they were told they weren't deserving of, or they just thought, oh, driving that kind of car is for other people. Living in that community is for other people, not my family. All it is knowing what to do and how it works, which is why I said in the beginning, I am the rule explainer. Consumers were not explained how the rules work and how to play the game. You can never win at a game if you don't know the rules on how to play it. It's like even any board game, if they take all of the instructions out and just give you the game, it's not going to work well. You're not going to figure it out unless it's something you really know. But you know what I mean? So the goal is to get to 40,000 clients. And the part two reason why I want that is because at our current staff level, we can definitely take on more clients. But if we reach 40,000 clients, that gives me more money to create more jobs, to give people more stability, because the people that work with us, I mean, they're paying their bills, they're taking care of their kids, they're taking vacations, they're doing all of these things based on us actually caring enough about people to help others. So having that sizable client count allows me to hire more people. So then that way I can continue to focus on more employees and also changing how they live. Yeah. So that's the goal.
I love it. So when you started into this and you started down this rabbit hole of all the stuff to figure it out, curious, how did your friends, maybe your family even, how was that taken? Because I know a lot of times that can be a thing when you go into new lines of work. How was that for you, going from cars to wireless to like all of a sudden down this rabbit hole of credit repair, really what it would have appeared, I would think. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So friends, super supportive. I've built a reputation in the, selling cars and selling phones and plans to have a good reputation, to always be somebody who morally and ethically sells, right? So with friends and all of that, super supportive. My mom was super supportive. My dad is always the skeptic, which was so funny because we were just talking about this a couple of days ago, actually. So I remember going from car sales to Verizon. It was a significant income change, meaning like lower.
Right.
And, my dad was telling me all the reasons why I shouldn't do it. But then as I started to work my way up and I bought my first store, my dad was like, I knew you were going to do this and I knew you were going to, and I
Right.
love my dad, but he's like the biggest skeptic. So then I had things really good at Verizon. They give you a company car and all that stuff. And, so to him, he's like, you made it. And, but I was getting sick of it. And like I said, I was helping people on the side at the same time. And like that fulfillment magnet is what I call it, like started really gravitating towards, whoa, I actually helped somebody big time. Like if you really think, I gave you some info, you executed, and you were able to buy a home because of it. Like I can't get over that. Even though I've been doing this for 6 years, I can't get over that. So when I swapped over to the credit repair space, well, owning the store was my own business, but with the backing of Verizon, right? So this is, no, I'm going to start my own business helping people with no backing, with no name that means anything, with nothing. And so, there came my dad again, and he was like, are you sure you want to do this? Is it really going to work? And I'll never forget sitting on the couch with them. So when I was in Pennsylvania, my parents were in Pennsylvania. We lived about 2 hours apart. And so my wife and the kids, we would go visit them on the weekends. So it was one weekend we were sitting there, and I'm like, hey, so, here's pretty much, the acceptable range where to charge people. Like, so I'm not overcharging or undercharging. It's a good sweet spot. I had some people enroll, they're getting results, they're happy. So, I started doing that entrepreneur math, right? At least that's what I call it. I pull out the calculator and I start running the, like, if this many people sign up and it's an average of this is how much they pay,
Right.
what it costs us to do it, like I should be here. And I remember talking about it with such excitement because I already had some momentum.
Right.
And, but there came my dad. He's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, why aren't you excited? Like, I'm excited. What do you mean? Like, he's like, all right, yeah, sure. And I'm like, damn it. And like, it's like kind of like discouraging, in a way. But then as I started to develop more personally later on, I realized you can't expect people to have the same vision that you do because they're not going through the same, motions.
Their vision.
It's that place. So, but I didn't know it at the time. And, so I'd be working at it and my dad would check in maybe every couple of weeks. Hey, how's business? Hey, how's it going? And, as we started to get better, that's where the belief really happened. And I know he always like believed in me, but I just don't think he really understood. Like, wait, so people are just going to come to you and they're going to like, here's my credit report, and they're going to share all this info and they're just going to let you fix it. How do you fix it? And he started to ask questions, and, and he understands it way more. And here we are, fast forward, it was July of 2020 when we moved to Texas. So, I live in San Antonio now, and I moved my parents here and my sister here. So we have our family that lives here. And it was all due to doing the right thing over a period of time for enough people. And it allowed my family to live a completely different life than what we lived at that time. So, so he's super on board now.
And I mean, that's the thing. Most times people try to stop you, but it's not really that they're trying to stop you, quote unquote, stop you. It's that they're scared because you're a mirror of them and they wouldn't do it. Like my mom's that way. She's like, how do you do that stuff? And then finally she's like, I just couldn't do it, but go you. Like, okay, sounds good. My mom's a skeptic one. They got to have them. So that's really cool. And so you said you got into personal development. Sounds like more recently. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I've always watched like YouTube videos and things like that. And, because I was in sales, I was always in sales. So there was always some type of like sales motivation video. I came across Grant Cardone and Eric Thomas. And, so like I'd be listening to everybody like Simon Sinek. And, so I'm like absorbing all this information, but I didn't really have much going in the beginning, to really apply the things. And then when you go to like talk to people about it, they're like weirded out almost in a way because they're like, wait, what are you talking about? Believing yourself and do this and execution and discipline. And they're like, that's not our conversations. So, so I kept it more to myself and I kept reading and listening. And it was right around, I want to say late 2017, early 2018, a good friend of mine, which is also an RTA, so Brad Modridge, so he lives in Pennsylvania too, and we weren't far from each other. We used to hang out. We were in a prior business together and things like that. So he was the one who was like, man, there's this guy, Andy Frisella, like you got to listen to the podcast. And I'm like, podcast? I'm like, I don't does he have a YouTube video? You know, like, because that's how I was used to absorbing information.
Right.
But I listened to one episode. He goes, no, listen to this one. So I listened to one episode and I was hooked because the guy spoke like me and like, you know, because I'm very uncensored. And so when I'm listening to him, I'm like, wait a minute, I like this. And you got to remember, from being in the military for 6 years, I have a slight different way of thinking and a way of like very structured and disciplined and not having a filter. And that's exactly who Andy is, right? And so then I made this commitment to myself and I said, you know what, I'm going to listen to more of this guy. Well, I started from his very first episode in 2015 for MFCEO. And I made a commitment. I said, I'm never going to listen to an episode as background noise, like in the car with people or like where I can't really intentionally listen. And I'm never going to skip an episode. Those are my rules. So, and I didn't. And I remember as I would go through it, and it's not like it was a perfect one episode a day. Some days I'd listen to 2, 3, or 4, and then I may go 2, 3, 4 days without listening.
Right.
But I always made sure, like, it wasn't something I just checked the box on. I made sure that I can intentionally listen, take notes, learn how to take action from it, and absorb it. So it took me quite a few years to finally catch up. Like, I'm talking less than 2 months ago is when I finally caught up to the most recent episode.
There's a lot of them.
Yes. I was like close to 600 in MFCEO. And I think he's at like 495 right now for Real AF. So, and I remember sharing this with like my friends, you know, like you have like the group of people that like you may share things in between. And I'm like, man, they really need to hear this, because as I'm listening, I would implement this in my business.
Right.
And I would see the things that he was talking about. And then I would watch it actually work. And that's what made me even more obsessed. So he's literally changing how my business operates, how I think, how I structure things, how I think about things. And so I was hooked. And I remember sharing with some friends, and it was maybe like 5, 6 months later, and they were like, oh yeah, no, I finished the podcast. And I'm like, how? I've been listening to this thing since like late 2017, and I still got like 200 and something episodes ago. How did you get through it? Oh no, it was really good. I just binged it. And I'm like, okay, so you didn't retain anything. Got it. Because I didn't see anything, and I'm thinking one specific person. And nothing changed in his family life, personal life, business. Nothing changed. I'm like, there's no way you're listening to the same guy that I'm listening to and you're in the same place you were before you listened. It's impossible. And so that's how I came across him. So then it was I think it was like May of this year when open enrollment came for Arete, and Brad and I spoke about it because I started hearing about Arete on the podcast, and he's like, you got to wait for open enrollment. And I went and I applied and I got accepted. And then as I caught up to Andy's, that's when I found Ed Milet's podcast. And I've listened to Ed before, you know, clips and things like that. But then I started listening to his podcast and I was like, whoa, I got to seriously pay attention to this guy, because one, he speaks a little bit faster. The way he articulates certain things, I'm like, okay, this requires a completely different ear to absorb what he's saying. And that's how I got here.
Wow. And so, yeah, going down the personal development. Did you, through that, you mentioned one friend. Did you have a few friends that you found? Basically, what I'm trying to say is how important you feel associations are to your success.
I feel like in my specific thing that I do, I feel like they're very important because anybody that you speak to, it gives you a gauge of where you are, right? So unless you have anything to compare to, you don't know where you really rank. I could say, you know, I'm the top of my friends, but one, how do you know? And two, once you feel like you've been there, you got to go for a new batch of friends that are going to get you to the next level. You guys work together. So I feel like it's super important because in my industry, it is more about who you know. But it does start with like, you got to know what you're doing, and you got to be a person of integrity and character and show that you have something of value to exchange. Like you got to bring something to the table once you start to get to a higher level of friends. In the very beginning, you guys bring conversation, right? And Oh, your life sucks. My life sucks too. How does your life suck? And like, it's different conversations.
Right.
So you're not really exchanging value or helping each other get up. But as you make connections with other people, your friend circle always changes. I noticed mine had. So as my friend circle gets better, I realize I have to be better to be accepted at that table, because I have to lead with value to the people that can honestly change my life. But I got to give them something first.
Mm-hmm.
So those associations matter, because I've been connected with some people that I don't think on my own or without any type of track record or proof of concept in what I've done would have ever given me the time of day.
Mm-hmm. I hear you there. That's awesome. So in wrapping up, I always have 3 final questions, and then anything we didn't chat about that you think would be really important for our listeners to hear. So first final question is, if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence that you would say that could help them find it?
Ooh, all right. You'll never find a purpose until you actually try every single thing possible. Reason I say this, you don't know what the purpose is going to be if you keep doing the same thing that already isn't giving you any purpose. When somebody wants to start a business, but they're working a job, and neither of those are wrong, by the way. There are some people that have jobs and love them. There are people that have businesses and love them. But if you're really searching for a purpose, well, you got to try things, trial and error, to figure out what that actual purpose is. If I would have stayed at Verizon, I would have never found my purpose. If I would have never left the car industry, I would have never found my purpose. If I would have been a 20-year retired in the military, I'd still be in the military right now. I would have never found my purpose. I would just be going through the motions.
It's good. I like it. Try things.
Yeah.
Number 2, and I'm sure you have more than one, but what comes to mind? What's a favorite quote and why?
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, I got to pick just one, huh?
Yeah.
Let's say my favorite quote. Man, I really feel on the spot right now because I don't know which one to pick.
Pick a couple. What's your top 2?
All right, that's a little bit better. So the number 1 is how you do one thing is how you do all things.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. And the second one is you are who you hang with. The reason that I picked that is because, like I explained in the friend circle, my character and my integrity is really dependent on who I hang with and who I do business with. You are definitely a direct representation of the people that you hang with.
I believe that 100%. Number 3, and last question, is what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Man, you ask good questions.
Thank you.
One word or one sentence, one of my graves.
How do you want to be remembered?
Oh, all right. So how I want to be remembered, it's kind of hard for me to put I barely graduated high school, by the way. So how I would want to be remembered as somebody who gave it his all in every single category. I'm not talking about just, oh, he grew a big business. I'm talking about being remembered as a father and a husband and a family man, and how I treated other people, and how when I had conversations with people, I always, go with the law of addition to make sure that I add some type of value in every conversation. So I just want to be remembered as somebody who gave everything, to everybody, and was honest and genuine and did everything that he could to help other people.
Awesome. I love it. And if you run into someone at a coffee shop and they're like, Dylan, that podcast was awesome, I learned lots, was there anything we didn't touch on that you feel we should have touched on?
Honestly, no. I think it's really important for people to understand, and by no means, like, this isn't a plug to me. I don't care who you use or even if you try to do it yourself. Having credit and good credit is very important to the overall quality of how you live.
Yeah.
And I think we covered that. But it's very important to reiterate how important credit actually is. It's not just for purchases and for you to get nice things. it literally changed the trajectory and quality of how you live. And I just think that's the message that needs to be driven as hard as possible.
I love it. So true. So, guys, we'll have the links for Dylan. If you do need to reach out, definitely reach out to him. Our links will all be in the show notes. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share all the stuff, get the word out. Together, if we can change one starfish or one life, together we can change the world. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having me again. See you guys.